Namaskar, I'm Ashok Vyas. I want you to be happy and healthy, and most of the parents want their kids to be top as far as their health and their upbringing is concerned. That is of utmost importance for parents. So we are doing this series where we're talking about raising healthy kids, and I have the pleasure of welcoming pediatrician Dev Masterji, who himself is a young parent. So welcome.
Thanks for
Um,
having me.
So sometimes there are some discoveries which are not very pleasant. They, in terms of you find that your child eats a particular food and they have some rashes all over them. Now that allergy symptom, some parents quickly understand and then they rectify. Some don't understand. So talk to me about what are the root causes for being allergic to XYZ thing. Is it always hereditary or something else?
Yeah, so food allergies is something that many parents worry about in their children. And you eat something suddenly at a party or something, and all of a sudden your child has rashes, these itchy rashes or swelling and things like that, and parents freak out. So, yeah, it is something to be concerning in children, food allergies. Very common ones that people kind of hear in the news and on TV and things like peanuts or tree nuts such as almonds, cashew, pistachio, walnut, seafood, shrimp, things like that, soy are more common in the food allergy family. And yes, it the child will eat it at some random time and all of a sudden they get an itchy rash or they get swelling, and it is very scary. And it's very important that the parents contact their pediatrician or they call 911 if it's a true emergency, because we don't want it to lead to any trouble breathing or any other severe repercussions. um, and then on the point of is it hereditary, food allergies do not tend to run in families, so that's a good thing. Just if the parents are allergic to something doesn't mean that the children will be. It is very random.
So some discovery of this kind, as I said, is not pleasing. But once it is there and you figure it out, it is there, then you need to be working proactively. So wherever the child is going, if you need to let others know that she is having allergy to this kind of food, and he will also have to be careful. But another thing is, you mentioned if it is an emergency, then you have to call emergency services, etc. Um, Talk to me about the general symptoms that are observed as a result of allergy. As I mentioned about rashes, are there other serious symptoms?
Yeah, so allergies can present in many ways. You could have something as simple as a small itchy rash that we in the medical field call hives. They're very itchy, they're raised, they're red rashes. But you could have as severe as whole body rashes. You could have swelling, especially in the face. You could have the whole face swelling, lips swelling, ears swelling, eyes swelling. And then that swelling can also go to the throat. And if you have swelling in the throat, then you're having trouble breathing. And this is what we call anaphylaxis, which is a severe allergic reaction, which is a medical emergency. In this example, we prescribe something called an EpiPen, which is an injectable form of epinephrine to resolve all of this swelling, especially in the throat, so the child can breathe. And then that's a medical emergency. That's where we would want to call 911 so you can get immediate epinephrine. Because if we do not, if the child cannot breathe, unfortunately, that would then lead to death. So we don't want that.
Absolutely. And in general, there would be some treatment, of course, which would mitigate it. And but does allergy kind of results into a situation where you have to take some medicine on regular basis, or how it plays out in general?
Yeah, so food allergies, the number one recommendation is to avoid the food. but in real life, avoidance doesn't always, there's accidents. So often parents will have to carry a liquid medicine called Benadryl or diphenhydramine. And then in case of anaphylaxis, you should also carry something called EpiPen, which is a carryable injectable epinephrine that's easy for parents to administer, and children can also self-administer as well in case there's anaphylaxis. And in general, the field of allergies has changed a lot. So there is an FDA approved, which a lot of allergists give to prevent severe peanut allergy. It's called oral immunotherapy, where you go to the allergist office like probably once in 2 weeks, once a month. They give you a solution that has a little bit of peanut and you put it under your tongue. And over a period of close to a year, some children can eat up to 1 to 2 peanuts with no allergic reaction.
So, staying on this track of allergy, there are some kids who, if they touch a cat or a dog, they develop some symptoms. And pets are, of course, dear to many people. Kids love to play with cats or dogs if they are around. What are the ways in which this particular situation can be handled, because these are two sides. One, you will have some biological disturbing sort of symptoms, but at the same time you are a child and you long to play as the other kids are playing. So have you come across some situation like that?
Yeah, we have. I have children who are allergic to, we call it cat dander and dog dander, which is basically the fur and the shedding of the hair of cats and dogs. So again, the main treatment is avoidance, because usually cat and dog dander allergies are less severe. They tend to have watery eyes, itchy eyes, sneezing, maybe a little bit of cough. It's very similar to like pollen allergies, seasonal allergies, grass allergies, things like that. And again, it's avoidance. So you have to take the cat or dog out of the house. You have to clean the house thoroughly. You might need to use HEPA filters or air filters in the house to keep that dander at a lower level. And unfortunately, lots of parents, I have to tell them, you have to remove the cat or dog. They'll donate it to maybe another family member, because the children will suffer with this constant allergy their whole life.
Oh man. So there is no permanent cure for this.
No, unfortunately, yeah, allergies in general, there's no permanent cure, especially for these environmental allergies like cats and dogs.
Continuing with the environment, extending it towards pollen, or as the season changes, some people develop certain symptoms which make them uncomfortable, and especially it is even more difficult for kids to face that transition. They are constantly going to school, mingling with kids. So, are there some precautions which they need to observe while they are with other friends and classmates?
Well, no, if they have pollen allergies or grass or ragweed or the many different families of what people call seasonal allergies or hay fever, often highly seen during the springtime, the summertime. Unfortunately, nothing really. The problem is not with the children. The problem is the pollen in the air. And as global warming has increased and the number of and then flowering trees are prettier to plant than non-flowering trees. So there is a overall increased rise of pollen over the last 2 decades in America. So seasonal allergies or hay fever or these pollen allergies have been on the rise. And on top of it, the pollen counts have increased exponentially year after year. So pollen allergy is on the rise, unfortunately. And again, in that case, um, you can't avoid going outside. You have to go outside. You have to live your life. So there's lots of recommendations to mitigate those. Obviously, there's lots of over-the-counter medications for seasonal allergies, Zyrtec, Claritin, Allegra, things like that. There's nasal sprays like fluticasone and other things. And again, the other thing is to mitigate the pollen. So when you come back from being outside, take a shower to rinse off the pollen, put your clothes into the laundry so any pollen on your clothes are washed, and then use HEPA filters in the house to remove the pollen from the air.
So these are important precautions that needs to be taken, and as always, we have heard knowledge is power. So knowing what would prevent you from going towards that direction and following that is definitely important. From allergy to another side, which makes kids look at certain areas which kind of makes them more vulnerable than other kids. So let's talk about proactive way in which you can work on the immune system of a kid. So there are two sides, of course. There are some capsules which are recommended sometimes that in order for you to develop this strand or whatever vitamin is recommended. But are there some habit patterns or some general food habits that you think are helpful in improving and strengthening the immune system?
Yes. So very good point. Actually, to food allergies, to reduce, especially food allergies, like we were talking before, peanuts, tree nuts, such as almonds, cashews, walnut, pistachio, fish, shellfish, eggs, milk, soy, gluten or wheat. The recommendations have changed actually in the last 10 years of pediatrics is to introduce these allergic foods as early and often in the childhood diet. So as soon as 6 months of age, you can introduce these different components, not all together, slowly, bit by bit, and again in small quantities. Um, by introducing these foods early, you're less likely to have food allergies later in life. The recommendations used to be not to give these allergic foods for as long as possible. So wait to give peanut until your child is like 5, 6 years old, which then increased food allergies in general. So now we introduce, like I have a 9-month-old baby who has already tried almost every nut, has tried milk, a little bit of milk, tiny bit of milk in such as yogurt or cheese, has tried soy in like a very minute powder form. So she's tried all these different allergic foods already multiple times in very small doses.
So it's a learning curve for many parents all the time, and let us look at it as a sense of joy as we learn and we overcome certain problems. We feel good individually as well as collectively. Talking about some collective ways which are in place and that are enforced also, and most of the parents are aware, but we will just revise with your help. We have been through COVID, sort of a challenge, and so this word vaccination is familiar to our ears, but vaccines have always been a part of our lives. When you take admission, they'll ask you that whether these vaccinations have already been given to the child. So with you, I want to start from the start. What are the generally necessary vaccines that kids need to stay strong and healthy?
Yeah, so many vaccines are needed nowadays for children, and most vaccination in children happen in the first 2 years of life. And again, any vaccine that's in the market in America goes through rigorous rigorous studies, clinical trials, FDA recommendations, CDC. It's under harsh control. So all these vaccines that have been around are very safe, and they're all medically necessities, because what are they doing? A vaccine, in the end of the day, is preventing your child from dying or being severely debilitated. So there's no such thing as a medically optional vaccine, because they all are preventing death. And then billions of dollars have been spent into making vaccines to prevent children from dying. So it's very important, so children can have long, healthy lives.
So let me request you to name a few and the age at which that is administered.
Okay, yeah. So one of the first vaccines children will have is it's right when they're born in the hospital. It's called hepatitis B, which is given right at birth, like within the first few hours of life. So that's the first one that any parent in America will see in the hospital. And then the next vaccine that we give is at 1 month of age, which is the second hepatitis B vaccine, which is the same one that you got in the hospital. And then at the 2 months and 4 months and 6 months of life are the same sets of vaccines, which include one vaccine called it's DTaP, which is diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. And then with that, there's also something called pneumococcal, which is preventing pneumococcal pneumonia and pneumococcal meningitis. Another vaccine is polio with it, which is injectable, not oral. And then there's also a vaccine called H influenza, which also prevents types of pneumonias and meningitis. And then there is an oral vaccine that's called rotavirus to prevent a very severe diarrhea virus. So again, these are the vaccines that are given at 2 months of life, 4 months of life, 6 months of life. And then at 9 months of age, there is the last hepatitis B vaccine, which we were talking about before. And then at 1 year of life, we give the vaccine for MMR, which is measles, mumps, rubella. And they get a second shot, which is also called for varicella, which lay people call chickenpox. And then at 15 months of age, we repeat the DTaP and the polio shot and the pneumococcal that I talked about before. And then at 18 months of age, you get the hepatitis A shot. And then again, when flu season is around, we start the flu shot at 6 months of age. So that's during the flu season, which is usually September into May of the following year. That's the flu season. So that's every year we give it to babies and children and elderly starting at 6 months of age. And then now we have added the COVID vaccine. So COVID vaccine starts at 6 months of age as well. And then that goes on yearly. Currently, the recommendations is a yearly COVID vaccine. And there are more childhood vaccines as they get older. I don't know if we need to keep going or not.
No. I didn't expect this list to be so long. I thought there would be 4 or 5, but and then I'm very impressed. You remember all of them, and of course, it's impossible for any parent to remember them. So that is why they need to take their kids to their respective doctors frequently and sort of keep them updated about what needs to be done. These are quite a bit, and just as a layman, I find that this is too much for a kid to take. So, how is the response of kids? I mean, you are having a needle or even oral or so, but I know. I know I'm asking a question, but do you really think all these are necessary?
Yeah, so these are not new. All of these shots I've gotten as a baby, and then maybe even you got a lot of these as well when you were a child as well. So they're not really anything different, but actually, honestly speaking, it's less needles than I said, because a lot of the vaccines now have been combined. So when I was a baby, not all of these were combined. So the number of actual needles are less. Unfortunately, immunizations or vaccines have to be in a needle. I wish there was a different version where we don't have to give a needle. But again, A little bit of pain, a little bit of fever is better than your child dying or being in the hospital or severely debilitated. So by taking this small amount of pain prevents horrible, horrible repercussions. And I did the same for my two children. They get all the shots together. I don't space it out. And then again, the studies have showed when you do the shots at the appropriate time all together, you get a better immune response. And that's what we want to have in the end of the day.
Yeah. So at the end of the day and at the end of the program, I would request you to repeat or not repeat actually. See, there are some kids when they have symptoms of fever, um, some parents get scared. Some parents take it very calmly and they would say 1 day, 2 day, it'll go away. If it doesn't, they'll give some Tylenol or the basic medicine. But as a physician, what is your recommendation? Because it turns out we don't know what is it that has caused the fever in the first place. Even doctors, they forgive me for saying it, they do a lot of trial and error. That, oh, if it is not this, it'll be this. That is my general impression. So talk to me about a parent having a child with fever. What should be the first thing that they should be doing?
Yeah, so I understand as a parent, we don't want our children to suffer. We don't want them to have fever. But again, we have to remember fever is not always a scary thing. It's again, we have to look at our child as a whole and what is actually happening. So, fever before the modern era of Amazon, Target, Walmart, Tylenol, things like that, fever was our body's way of fighting infection. So, fever is the right process that our body goes through to fight the infection. The unfortunate thing, though, with fever is children do not feel good when they are having fever because they're obviously sick with something. So then they don't want to, especially babies and young children, don't want to eat or drink. If they don't drink or eat a little bit, their body will not have enough strength to fight the infection. So often we as pediatricians tell parents to give fever medicines such as Tylenol or Motrin or whatever it is, so that the child will feel a little better so they can at least drink and eat so their body can fight the infection. So again, the main thing is your child has fever, look at your child, but also contact your pediatrician. You can get fever medicine, that's fine, but please consult with your pediatrician because sometimes fever can lead is normal. There's nothing going on, but sometimes there can be severe things. But work together as a team with your pediatrician to see what is the process. And you're very right. We don't always know where the fever is coming from. We don't know what it is, but common things are common. Viruses are common colds. Viruses are very common. So viral infections do not have any medicine. It is just symptom management, such as give fever medicine, make sure they drink lots of liquids, take lots of rests. But yes, we don't always know the source and we never will, but we know we have to manage the child and you work together with the pediatrician and see what happens as each day goes on.
Absolutely. So thank you very much. And I would be failing in my duty to kind of underline that, of course, nobody knows everything yet. Physicians definitely know more than a parent who is not a physician. And as they mentioned, the teamwork uh, in the interest of the kid works very well. So we talked about raising healthy kids and touched some of the important aspects, including what causes allergy, what needs to be done, and of course all these vaccines which are important and that need not be ignored. And we need to keep ourselves as parents. As a good student also we need to work to learn. So Masterji, thank you very much with lots
Thank
and
you.
lots of good wishes. Once again, thanking a
Thank
pediatrician
you.
and a parent, Dev Masterji, for enlightening us, and thanking all of you, wishing each and every child to be happy and healthy. This is Ashok Vyas. Namaste.